Hi, ready for some more of Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing? So, when we left off yesterday, Peter is very cross because his little brother Fudge has scribbled all over his project that he and his friend Jimmy and Sheila were working on. They've had the project for 2 weeks and they've been working really hard on it, and he comes home and finds that Fudge has gone into his room, taken this massive poster that they've been working on, scribbled all over it, ruined it. So he's pretty mad. So I'm going to go back a paragraph. Soon I heard my mother hollering and then Fudge crying. After a while my mother knocked on my bedroom door and called, "Peter, may I come in?" I didn't answer. She opened the door and walked over to my bed. She sat down next to me. "I'm very sorry," she said. I still didn't say anything. "Peter," she began. I didn't look at her. She touched my arm. "Peter, please listen." "Don't you see, Mom? I can't even do my homework without him messing it up. It just isn't fair. I wish he was never born. Never. I hate him." "You don't hate him," my mother said. "You just think you do." "Don't tell me," I said. "I mean it. I really can't stand that kid." "You're angry," my mother told me. "I know that. I don't blame you. Fudge had no right to touch your poster." I spanked him. "You did?" I asked. Fudge never gets spanked. My parents don't believe in spanking. "You really spanked him?" I asked again. "Yes," my mother said. "Hard?" I asked. "On his backside," she told me. I thought that over. "Peter," my mother put her arm around me, "I'll buy you a new poster board tomorrow. It really was my fault. I should never have let him into your room." "Well, that's why I need a lock on my door," I said. "I don't like locks on doors. We're a family. We don't have to lock each other out." "Yeah, but if I had a lock, Fudge wouldn't have found my poster." "It won't happen again," my mother promised. I wanted to believe her, but I really didn't. Unless she tied him up, I knew my brother would get into my room again. The next day, while I was at school, my mother bought a new yellow poster board. The hard part was explaining to Jimmy that we had to start all over again. He was a good sport about it. He said this time he'd make sure his truck didn't look like a flying train. And I said this time I'd make pencil marks first so my letters didn't go uphill. Our committee met that afternoon. Sheila didn't mention the last time. Neither did we. Me and Jimmy worked on the poster while Sheila copied our written work into the booklet. We'd be ready to give our oral report to the class on Monday. So oral is talking. They have to stand in front of their class and talk about what they found out. Not like some committees who hadn't even started yet. By 5 o'clock we had finished our poster and Sheila was almost done with the cover for our booklet. Jimmy walked over and stood behind her, watching her work. But after a minute he yelled, "What do you think you're doing, Sheila?" I got up from the floor and joined them at my desk. I took a look at the cover. It was pretty nice. It said, "Transportation in the City." And under that, it said, "By Sheila Tubman, Peter Hatcher, and James Fargo." But under that, in small letters, it said, "Handwritten by Miss Sheila Tubman." Now I knew why Jimmy was mad. "Oh no," I said, holding my hand to my head. "How could you?" Sheila didn't say anything. "It's not fair," I told her. "We didn't put our names on the poster." "Oh, but the cover's all done," Sheila said. "Can't you see that? I'll never get the letters so straight again. It looks perfect." "No," Jimmy shouted. "We're not handing the booklet in like that. I'll rip it up before I let you." And he grabbed the booklet and threatened to tear it in half. Sheila screamed, "You wouldn't! I'll kill you! Give it back, Jimmy Fargo!" She was ready to cry. I knew Jimmy wouldn't tear it up, but I didn't say so. "Peter, make him give it back." "Will you take off the line about your handwriting?" I asked. "Oh, I can't. It'll ruin the booklet." "Then I think he should rip it up," I said. Sheila stamped her foot. "Oh, I hate you both." "You don't really," I told her. "You just think you do." "Well, I know I do," Sheila cried. "Well, that's because you're angry right now," I said. I couldn't help smiling. Sheila jumped up and tried to get the booklet, but Jimmy held it over his head, and he's much taller than Sheila. She had no chance at all. Finally, she sat down and whispered, "I give up. You win. I'll take my name off." "You promise?" Jimmy asked. "I promise," Sheila said. Jimmy set the booklet down on my desk in front of Sheila. "Okay," he said, "start." "Well, I'm not going to make a whole new cover," Sheila said. "What I'll do is I'll turn this bottom line into a decoration." She picked up a magic marker and made little flowers out of the words. Soon, handwritten by Miss Sheila Tubman, turned into 16 small flowers. "There," Sheila said, "it's done." "That looks pretty good," I told her. "Yeah, would look better without those flowers," Jimmy said, "but at least it's fair now." That night, I showed my mother and father our new poster. They thought it was great, especially our silver sparkle aeroplane. My mother put the poster on top of the refrigerator so it'd be safe until the next day, when I would take her to school. Now I had nothing to worry about. Sheila had the booklet, the poster was safe, and our committee was finished before schedule. I went into my room to relax. Fudge was sitting on the floor near my bed. My shoebox of supplies was in front of him. His face was a mess of magic marker colors, and he was using my extra sharp scissors to snip away at his hair. And the hair he snipped was dropping into Dribble's bowl, which he had in front of him on the floor. "See," he said. "See, Fudge? Fudgy's a barber." That night, I found out that hair doesn't hurt my turtle. I picked off every strand from his shell. I cleaned out his bowl and washed off his rocks. He seemed happy. 2 things happened the next day. One was my mom had to take Fudge to the real barber to do something about his hair. He had plenty left at the back, but just about nothing in the front and top. The barber said there wasn't much he could do until the hair grew back. Between his fangs and his hair, he was getting funnier looking every day. The second was my dad came home with a chain latch for my bedroom door. I could reach it when I stood on tiptoe, but that brother of mine couldn't reach it at all, no matter what. Our committee was the first to give its report, and Mrs. Haver said we did a super job. She liked our poster a lot. She thought the silver sparkle aeroplane was the best. The only thing she asked us was, how come we included a picture of a flying train? Okay, that was the end of chapter 7. We're now going to read chapter 8, the TV star. Can you see that there? The TV star. Aunt Linda is my mother's sister. She lives in Boston, and last week she had a baby girl. So now I have a new cousin. My mother decided to fly to Boston to see Aunt Linda and the new baby. I'll only be gone for the weekend, my mom told me. I was sitting on her bed watching her pack. I know, I said. Daddy will take care of you and Fudge. I know, I said again. Are you sure you'll be all right? She asked me. Well, sure, why not? Will you help Daddy with Fudge? Sure, Mom, don't worry. I'm not worrying. It's just that Daddy is so, well, you know, he doesn't know much about taking care of children. Then she closed her suitcase. We'll be fine, Mom, I said. I was really looking forward to the weekend. My father doesn't care about keeping things neat. He never examines me to see if I'm clean, and he lets me stay up late at night. On Friday morning, all 4 of us rode down in the elevator to say goodbye to my mother. Henry looked at the suitcase. You going away, Mr. Hatcher? He asked. My mother answered, No, I am, Henry. My sister just had her first baby. I'm flying to Boston for the weekend to help out. New baby, Fudge said. Baby, baby, baby. Nobody paid any attention to him. Sometimes my brother just talks to hear the sound of his own voice. Well, have a nice visit, Mrs. Hatcher, Henry told my mother when we reached the lobby. "Oh, thank you, Henry," my mother said. "Now keep an eye on my family for me." "Oh, will do, Mrs. Hatcher," Henry said, giving my father a wink. Outside, my father hailed a taxi. He put the suitcase in first, then held the door for my mother. When she was settled in the cab, my father said, "Don't worry about us. We'll be just fine." Just fine, Mommy," Fudge yelled. "Bye, Mom. See you Sunday," I said. My mother blew us kisses, and her cab drove away. My father sighed while Fudge jumped up and down, calling, "Bye, Mommy, bye, 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 bye." I had no school that day. The teachers were at a special meeting, so my father said he'd take me and Fudge to the office with him. My father's office is in a huge building made of almost all glass. It's a really busy place. You never see people just sitting quietly at desks. Everyone's always rushing around. A person could get lost in there. My father has a private office and his own secretary. Her name is Janet. She's very pretty. I especially like her hair. It's thick and black, and she has the longest eyelashes I've ever seen. Once I heard my mother say, "Janet must have to get up at the crack of dawn to put on her face." My father just laughed when my mother said it. Janet's seen me before, but this was her first meeting with Fudge. I was glad his hair was finally growing back. I explained right off about his teeth. "He'll look a lot better when he's older," I said. He knocked out his front two, but when he's 6 or 7, he'll get new ones. "See," Fudge said, opening his mouth. "All gone." My father said, "Janet, the boys are going to be here for the morning. Can you amuse them while I clear up some work?" "Certainly, Mr. Hatcher," Janet said. "You go ahead into your office. I'll take the boys on a tour of the rest of the agency." As soon as my father went into his private office, Janet took out her handbag. She reached in, came out with a hairbrush, some lipstick, and a bag of crackers. "Want some?" she asked me and Fudge. "Okay," I said, taking a handful, and Fudge did the same. The crackers were shaped like little goldfish. I nibbled while Janet fixed herself up. She had a big folding mirror in her desk drawer. She set it on top of her desk and went to work on herself, but when she was finished, she looked exactly the same as when we came in. But I guess she didn't think so, because she said, "That's much better." Then she put all her stuff away and took me by one hand and Fudge by the other. We walked down a long hall, through a doorway, and into another section of the agency. We came to a room where there were a bunch of kids with mothers. I guess there were at least 50 of them. Most of the kids were kind of small, like Fudge, and some were crying. "Is this a, nursery school part or what?" I asked Janet. She laughed. "Oh, they're here to try out for the new toddler bike commercial." "You mean they all want to be the kid who rides the bike on TV?" "Yeah. At least their mothers want them to be picked," Janet said, "but we can only use one." "You mean only one out of all these kids is going to be picked?" "That's right," Janet said. "Well, who picks him?" I asked. "Well, your father and Mr. Denberg are doing it. But of course Mr. Vincent, the president of the toddler bike company, he has to approve." Just then a door opened and a secretary came out. "Next," she called to the waiting kids. "Ma, Murray's next," a mother called. "Oh, no, he's not," another mother called. "Sally is next." "Ladies, please, you'll all have a turn," the secretary said. Murray got to be next. He was a little red-headed kid. He wasn't in the room for 2 minutes when the door opened and a big man with a cigar in his mouth came out. "No, no, no," he shouted. "He's not the type at all." Murray was crying. His mother yelled at the big man. "Oh, what do you know anyway? You wouldn't know a treasure if you found one." She shook her fist at him. Janet whispered to me, "Oh, that's Mr. Vincent, the president of the toddler bike." Mr. Vincent walked into the center of the room. He looked around at all the kids. Then he looked over at us, and he pointed, and he called, "There he is! That's the kid I want." I thought he meant me. I got excited. I could just see myself on TV riding the toddler bike, and all my friends would turn on their TV sets and say, "Hey, look, there's Peter." And while I was thinking about what fun it would be, Mr. Vincent came over to us and grabbed Fudge. He lifted him up. "Perfect," he cried. "He's perfect." And the mothers who were waiting packed up their kids and left right away. stop there. Come back tomorrow if you want to find out how Fudge gets on being in a TV commercial. Probably not going to go well. Bye.